Lloyd's of London are set to invest £52 million in, I say invest, it's not going to invest, is it? Reparations to racial equality. God, I don't know who wrote this. Let's just completely ignore that. They're going to pay £52 million in reparations for their significant role in the slave trade. There, that's a bit easier. This comes after an 18-month review found that the insurance market was playing a quite central role to the maintenance of slavery. Basically, they were insuring the ships carrying the African slaves across the Atlantic. Well, joining me to discuss this is broadcaster and journalist Afua Hagan, regular here on talkTV, of course. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm not a fan of reparations. I'm not entirely sure that people in the 21st century should be apologising for and trying to make good for horrible things that happened in the past, because the past, pretty much until 100 years ago, was horrible for virtually everyone. Some people had it more badly than others, but pretty much everyone had a horrible, horrific, terrible life. And I'm not entirely sure what reparations do to solve that. Why do you think this is a good idea? 52 million quid.
Well, the thing is, the UK government only finished paying back compensation to slave owners. So that was owners of enslaved people who lost their commodities when slavery was abolished in 1833. We only finished paying that back in 2000.
It cost the country a fortune to abolish slavery.
£300 million. £20 million in 1833, £300 million in today's money. So, and at that point, that was compensation paid back to slave owners. But at no point has any reparations been paid back. And I don't just believe that reparations should be money. I think it should be actions as well. But no reparations have been paid back to enslaved people and their descendants.
Well, there can't be to enslaved people because they died a long time ago.
Of course, and millions of African people died in the journey trying to just make it to the Americas, to the Caribbean, wherever.
Yeah.
And reparations, the definition of it is redressing gross violations of human rights, which enslaving millions of people was.
Clearly.
And it's not just about the money. It's also about redressing inequalities that exist today, which are a hangover, if you will.
And certainly, look, America,
slavery.
until very, very recently, I mean, only, in our lifetime, well, certainly my lifetimes, the people did not have equality as a result of that. Different situation here in the UK. We didn't import slavery. People who live in this country are people who have chosen to live in this country. But you're in a situation where, look, it was black Africans who sold other black Africans to white Europeans to sell to plantations in America. It was an appalling abomination of a crime. It has happened in every society, every empire, throughout history. It is still happening now. Far more black Africans were sold by Arab slave traders to go east. All of it was horrific and awful. Thank God we helped abolish it. I think Britain should stand proud in the world for the fact we were the first empire to say, no, we're going to abolish this. They paid the slave owners because that was the quickest and best way of stopping this trade. What is the point of paying reparations now to, say, for instance, a young black woman like yourself? In what way do you need to be given recompense for what happened to perhaps some of your ancestors many, many years ago? Does Oprah Winfrey, as a black woman in America, a multimillionaire billionaire, does she need to have reparations being paid?
I think the point of reparations, like I said, it's about redressing this gross violation of human rights, which is something that we...
You can't redress it.
But
it happened.
But that's exactly. But it's something that we, like you said, we cannot deny that that's happened.
No one's denying it.
And there has to be some sort of compensation paid. We can't just sort of carry on like we are now and not redressing the inequalities, which are the hangover from slavery that exists now. So basically, you have inequalities in the NHS, in the police service.
Inequalities in the NHS?
Yeah, huge.
Because of slavery.
But
the slave trade is responsible for inequalities in the NHS.
The slave trade is responsible for the institutionalised racism that we have in different institutions in the United Kingdom. And
why don't we ask for reparations from African states that exist now, or who were responsible for selling, rounding up, capturing other African people and selling them to white Europeans? Why don't we ask those states for reparations? Why don't we ask the Italians to pay for the invasions of the Romans and the enslavery of many people, the Celts and others here in the UK? I'm thinking, my family, I mean, this isn't a government payout, it's Lloyd's of London. They made millions from insuring ships carrying slaves. They literally insured, they regarded human beings because they were black as cargo, as cattle,
as commodity.
Effectively, they were not considered human. It's a disgusting thing. The world has changed now. Britain is part of the reason why that changed. What on earth is the purpose of those reparations? Nobody living today is directly affected by slavery.
That's untrue, because, like I said...
By that slavery, there are people in slavery.
Because we still have the inequalities, which are the hangover of slavery. We still have the institutionalized racism in different sectors of society, which was started by having slavery in the first place, which was started by regarding people of African descent as cattle, as commodity, and using them as things rather than people. And
what about reparations for women? Women until about sort of 70, 80 years ago pretty much had no rights. We had the same rights as children, such as children had rights. We were basically owned by our fathers and then owned by our husbands. Until, I mean, certainly in my lifetime, it's been legal for men to beat their wives and rape their wives. When are we getting our reparations from all the men? Because we're living under that subjugation. I mean, it's at some point you have to have a cut-off point in history.
Yeah, you do have to have a cut-off point
in
history.
Yet.
I agree with that, but not just yet, because a lot of things that affect black people in this country, like I've said, and like I will keep saying...
Because apparently everyone in the NHS is racist. Philip,
I didn't say everyone in the NHS is racist.
I'm paraphrasing the nonsense.
You know, the question is, where do you stop? And again, it's not all about skin colour, because you look at the Irish that were brought into Great Britain to build the roads, to build everything else. And you know, in the 50s, it was very common as you went round. You saw on the boarding houses no blacks, no Irish. So we're grouped in together. So I think the issue is whenever we all try and
I just think when we're still harping on about the past, and again, the horrible crime took place. I don't think we can build for the future. That's why I fear we're going to talk to you about this again another day. I'm sure we will. Thank you so much for joining us.